Hello and welcome back to the FPL Tom preview stream. Game week 27 is right around the corner and me and Jake are here to, well, potentially guide you. Maybe more, I'd say probably mismanage, knowing our two's track record. Jake, how you doing on this Thursday evening?
I'm doing good, thanks, Tom. How about yourself?
You know what, mate? I'm doing pretty good. We had 3 red arrows in a row, but we're back to green. I feel, we were a little bit unlucky in the past few weeks. The luck's not really been there for me. But then we've got rid of all the distractions. We've got rid of all the kind of negative vibes, and now we're back. We're back to good stuff, and as you'll come on see in a second, some very good vibes indeed. Before we start today's stream, we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers on the channel. So if you do enjoy any of the content, the live streams, the videos, me and Jake just waffling absolute shit, then yeah, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like today's stream, and of course drop us a comment, as we will be trying to help you guys out as much as possible. Of course, we're going to start off first with the most illustrious award on the internet. It is going to be Bed Shitter of the Week. A lot of candidates for this week, but Jake, who are you going for as your number one candidate for the shittiest player of the week?
I think for me, the shittiest player of the week was a player that didn't even feature because of the hype that he had going into this game week, and that is Rasmus Højlund. Purely because I've seen so many people hyping him up. He's been in such blisteringly hot form. I think even people that really didn't think Man United would do very well, or I mean, regardless of the Fulham slip up, the fixtures don't look great for United in the next few weeks, especially starting this weekend. But I think people are even willing to take that punt on Højlund because regardless of how United did, he was just fine in the back of the net. And so I do think quite a lot of people have wasted a little bit of money going for that punt on Højlund when there are so many, as we've spoken about in previous episodes, so many other options like Watkins. Of course, everyone should have Haaland. Then the Solanke. And then if you're going to save a little bit of money, maybe alternatively to Ollie Watkins, you may have gone for Højlund. And I do sympathise with those people because I would have been tempted. I would have seen that as a really good idea, but him being injured has been a proper sucker punch for a lot of people. Because, well, I think to be honest, I think he was the biggest sucker punch for United of all because they really missed him being in the team. I think regardless of the fact that he's only been there this season, he's brought a lot of. Well, I think he's brought the confidence up in the team, and I think a big part of why they lost to Fulham was him missing. So not only did he shit the bed for a lot of FPL users, but I think he shit the bed for United as a whole.
Yeah, like you said, he was one of the most popular transfers in ahead of this game week as well, and he's just fully shagged a lot of people. Like we spoke about, the plethora of forward options as well, and then you end up with an injured player who's not even playing in a fixture you'd like him to play. It's not really good, is it? So you're going to have to take him back out this week. So I think a very strong candidate. For me, on the other hand, I think it's going to have to be, again, one of the most popular players. His effective ownership was absolutely ridiculous at some points this kind of game week. It was Hwang. He was a player I did fear not going with this game week. And then I think the game as a whole, it kind of just panned out really funnily. Is that the right word of saying it? Funnily? We're going to go with it. Sure.
Yeah, I think you've said that in quite a funnily way.
But basically, before the game even started, there was concerns that he wasn't going to play because he picked an injury in the warm-up. So that was out the question. So, the vibes already were just off. And then he had an absolute stinker. Then he goes and picks up an injury last night in the FA Cup, meaning he's out for this game week as well. So if you brought him in for basically a one-game week punt, and it's not really worked out, has it? So, yeah, I think both are very, very strong candidates. So the poll is going to go up for Bed Shitter of the Week. We've got Rasmus Højlund and we have got Hwang. So get your votes in for that one. Interestingly enough, I've absolutely shagged the title for this stream. So let me just quickly change that. There we go. It said blank in it. There's not a blank this week, so don't worry. There we go. Hopefully that's
What's your opinion on a close third place in Pedro Neto? Is he going to be an injury doubt for this game week?
No, he came off the bench in the FA Cup, so I think it should be all good, mate. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
That's good to hear, but you are right. That game was rather dull, to be honest.
It was rather dull. I always feel it had the repercussions to be quite a dull game. The only game on a Sunday, before, a cup final, just did honk of like a 0-0. It really, really did.
It was the epitome of why this television rights schedule where everyone has to play it every time in the weekend, at least once, twice, however many times. That was literally the reasoning. You have, if you wanted to take that to court, that is the exact evidence you would take for why Wolves Sheffield United should never be a Super Sunday game, let alone a Super Sunday game where, like you said, it's building up a cup final and it's the only game of the weekend. I think that was really poorly done by Sky, because I think if you could predict it ahead of the game, you really wouldn't have put this as a really entertaining game. Even if Wolves had put a load past them, you'd be like, oh, all right, next.
Yeah. I get that. I do get that. Do keep your questions coming in. We will answer some of those throughout the stream. So if you've got any questions about your team, do get them in. But of course, we're going to start off with Jake's team for blank game week 26. Jake used his wildcard, ladies and gentlemen, and had a pretty good week. 76 points scored. I'm going to let the man talk through it himself.
Yeah, no, I don't really have too many complaints on the whole. I think the wild card was worthwhile a choice, especially in preparation for the next few weeks. Albeit Solanke maybe a little bit of heart in the mouth, but I don't think I'm alone in that one. Doesn't help that I was planning on triple captaining him, so hopefully this weekend at least we see him feature at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll wait and see about that one. But on the whole, I'm happy with the players I've brought in. I think they all pan out quite nicely. I've got a fairly decent amount of players come that game week 29, which we spoke about just previously. I think you've got 6 players and so do I. So that can work out. It's something to work with, something to contemplate, as opposed to just panicking and going for that free hit come that game week. So I'm happy with that. I think, though, the main reason my wild card actually looks pretty decent and people can look at it and go, you know what, 76 points, fair enough. He's actually pulled the right players in. It comes down to one man and one man only, and that's Chris Richards.
Go on, explain yourself, because you're going to have to.
So the only explanation I have is I had Charlie Taylor playing, and I've had him on the bench. I've had him sitting there for weeks after weeks after weeks. And I know the one thing that it does go against is this, like I said, this game week 29, Burnley will play and Palace won't. So that doesn't work out too good. But I'm willing to take that for the 15 points. But also, I think the main reason I went for him was I didn't have him in mind, but I just was like, I'm doing a wild card. Let's see if there's anyone else that's 3.9 million. Because surely there's no one, but I'll have a look. And then I saw that Chris Richards was there. I also remember that Mark Gay's being out. I also know that Palace can be quite resolute at the back, especially against a club like Burnley, especially at home. They've got that new manager bounce. So I was just like, if I'm going for a wild card, I should probably go for a side that can at least hold their own in a home game, because Burnley will concede in almost every game.
True.
You're going to hope for that once in a million where he scores that really nice goal that he did score early on in the season. But I had him for that. I had Charlie Taylor when he scored that one-off goal. Maybe he'll get another one, but it's unlikely. But I do feel like I cashed in at the perfect moment, because Richards will continue to play. And so in those slight games where I would slightly back them, maybe to get a clean sheet, don't get me wrong, not once did I think Chris Richards would score. That was just the fruit on top of the pudding, if that's even the saying.
The fruit on top of the pudding.
The cherry on the cake.
Nice. But, no. It's fruit on top of the pudding now, lad.
But yeah, I couldn't believe it. It nearly went a little bit sour when Fofana scored right at the end, but thankfully that was just allowed for offside. To make the week really good, because I don't really care what happened for the rest of the week. It was a bit of a bummer that Villa decided to concede and make that game quite entertaining. And of course, the same with West Ham. I feel like both of those teams really shouldn't have conceded, and yet they conceded 2 and 3. Did Forest score 3? Or did they score 2? Was it 4-2 in both of them?
No, one was a 3-2, wasn't it? Or am I tripping?
I feel like they were, well. Oh, was it 4th? Oh,
it was 4-2 in the Forest game.
Yeah, it was 4-2 in the West Ham game as well, wasn't it?
No, it was, yeah. Wow.
So exactly. But both sides, West Ham and Villa, really shouldn't have conceded the goals that they did. So that was a bit of a shame. I know you were quite keen for me to put Pau Torres in. For some reason, I didn't. I think the reasoning behind that was the fact that Pau Torres is 0.1 million more expensive.
Right.
And the transfer that we'll go on to this week is literally calling my bank balance even. I have nothing left to spend. So it just kind of it cockblocked my next week's decision, which we'll go on to.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a nice place to kind of transition into it. You're getting very good at these segues. I'm liking it. So let's go and take a look at your team for this game week 27. I have brought that player in for you, so don't worry. Unfortunately, Chris Richards is on the bench. But if you want to talk us through the rest of the team, how it's looking, what your captaincy decisions are, and obviously that potential transfer in for this week.
Yeah, so I have actually already confirmed my transfer, which is actually it makes a massive difference to what you'd usually expect of me, Owen and Aring. And once I've spoken about my transfer, I'm like, oh, do I do this? Do I do that? I've actually already done it, which I'm quite happy about. I mean, it would be an absolute bugger if he gets injured now, but I've gone for Son. I planned that ahead with this wild card because I was like, you know what? I'm only keeping Doku in as I did last week because of his haul against Bournemouth in the reverse fixture. He didn't even like play the majority of the game, came off the bench and did absolutely nothing. So he's gone. Great cameo role for Doku coming into my side. Did absolute jack shit. I think he might have got one more point than De Bruyne in the midst of it though.
Yeah.
So that's the only positive I can take from it. But it's allowed for Son to come in. Like I said, I made sure I got him in. I don't really keep up to date too much with the price rises, so I just wasn't sure if there was any risk of it. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to bring Son in just in case because I do feel like it'd be a popular transfer, especially like I said with this game week 29 as well to consider. So yeah, I think that speaks for itself. Really, I think my team's quite nicely set up for this weekend. I've got the Bournemouth boys in except for Solanke just because of this injury doubt. And if I was going to bring Solanke in, if he was fit, I think I'd have a bit of a dilemma as to who I would drop because I don't think there's anyone else there that is going to. I don't think the Solanke is necessarily going to be firing on all cylinders more than anyone else in that front seven.
Okay.
I think there's a shout for everyone maybe having an off day. I know Neto's away to Newcastle, Kudus away to Everton, but they all could perform. And so the only reason I benched Solanke is just that little yellow flag on him, and I'm willing to take that hit if it does go against me because, of course, one, he's first sub, so you never know, and two, at least if he comes back and bags, then I know he's ready for the double game week.
Yeah.
Um,
True. True.
yeah, and then the only other thing I was going to say was I've gone for Haaland captain. I think there's a bit of conversation to be had that I'm sure you'll have with the captaincy choices, but I've gone for Haaland. I think I'd kick myself. Last week I went for Haaland instead of Saka. Did end up kicking myself because Saka did do better. This week I think I'd just be so foolish, in my opinion, not to go for him when I've thought about his previous games against United and that midweek game was absolute madness from him. So that's what I've gone for.
All right, I rate that. We will come on to talk about captaincy a little bit later. We do have the best captaincy options for this week, so we'll come on to talk about about that a little bit later. Like I said, interestingly, if we get news Dominic Solanke's fit and he's gonna play, I personally think I'd start him either over Kudus or Neto. To be honest,
I think it is though that those two that you could maybe put some argument in for. And
yeah.
like I said, the only reason I have benched Solanke is that fact that he's got that doubt over him. But I'll be there for the deadline stream. Hopefully, we can get some leaked news.
Hopefully so. We'll see. Dominic Solanke, the hot property that everyone wants to know about, eh? A question I wanted to ask you as well. Obviously, the FA Cup fixtures did conclude last night, meaning that we now know the 4 fixtures that are going to be taking place in blank game week 29. Obviously, a lot of people have now decided the chip strategy, free hitting in 29, dead ending into 29, or just kind of trying to make do in 29. What is your thought process at the moment?
Well, I think it depends on what people's teams look like, and I don't think it's worth going all gung ho for this blank game week. If it doesn't suit the rest of your season, and if people want to free hit, then so be it. But for me, I'm in a fairly decent position. I've got 6 players that will be able to play in that game week unless they're suspended or injured.
Yep.
So all being well, I have next week to bring a player in potentially, and the week of this blank to make my team 8 out of 11 players. I'm pretty happy with that, I think. Considering the game week itself, even if because you've just got to take into account that if you'd have like a full game week, those 4 games that are playing, you're not going to want that many players from it anyway
Yeah.
because of the lack of points you feel like you'd get in those games. I think there are a few that stand out, of course. I think, like you mentioned earlier on off stream, and I think you've probably mentioned in streams previous, I think as long as you have Son and Watkins and then a few just sporadic players, I think you should be all right.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Obviously, like you said as well, it is team by team dependent. Some people are going to be in a position where maybe they've only got 1 or 2 players. That probably is looking more likely to go for a free hit. But if you're in a similar position to both you and I, where we have 6, we've got the next few weeks to prepare as well, I think it might potentially be worth holding off. Just down to the fact that basically, for me and my team, I think the 34 free hit just looks a little bit better. There's a lot of teams in there from kind of planning that I've done that just, I don't know. You wouldn't want to own them long term, if you know what I mean. I think it's like Everton, Bournemouth, Newcastle United. So it's a little bit like, okay, for 1 week, I don't mind having these players. But for longer term, I don't really want like triple Everton or, triple Bournemouth in the long run. So I think that probably is the strategy that I'm on, and probably one that I think you might be on as well with kind of the players you've got in your team.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing to consider is if people are watching this and they pretty much use all of their chips bar the free hit, say, I think for me personally, I think like game week 37, which could be a bit of a chunky double, I think I'd like to use my bench boost, but that is also a really good time to use just some kind of hit if you've got it left. So if you're debating over maybe this blank game week coming up or game week 37's bench boost, game week 37's double game week, maybe you'd opt to hold off for then rather than taking that free hit in 2 weeks' time when you've already got a team of like 6 players minimum come the double. But I think if you've got 6 players, once this game week 29 comes up, I think you can just about get by.
Like you said, it is having those key players, the Watkins and the Sons, because realistically they're probably going to be the players that you captain for that week, and you feel if they do well, they pop off, and you've got some other players that at least feature. I think you're going to be fine, to be honest. Before we move on to my team, let's have a look what's kicking off in the chat. FPL Focal is back in the chat. He says, surprised the poll is getting close. Gotta be Hwang. Most transferred in. Gets injured. And Bowen, Louise, Bailey Hall. Can't write it. Indeed. I think Hwang might be the winner. He is currently edging the poll. We did have some other questions. A Turkey in a Bush says, I need a midfielder. I won't play next week. Should I go for Barkley, Big Willie, or someone else? I mean, if you wanted someone that's not playing next week, probably Barkley wouldn't be the one, unless you do want someone that will play next week, because obviously Barkley doubles. The Fulham one is an interesting one. I don't know if Big Willie's the one, if I was to go for a midfielder from Fulham. He's just a little bit of a minutes risk. Like, I know he's obviously got the meme factor for this stream, but it's...
Has a Turkey in a Bush privately messaged you this? Because I cannot see it.
It's right at the top of the chat. It is right at the top of the chat. Don't worry. He's not just hidden away.
Just secretly Snapchat you or something.
Yeah. He's just got me on Snap. What other questions have we got? I don't have a free hit chip and currently have 3 players that will play in game week 29. What's your advice? Take how many hits or just have 5 players, 2 free transfers? It's difficult to know, Kaftan. It depends on your team and depends on the certain players you've got in. Like I said, Watkins and Son for me would be the ideal players to have in game week 29 just because I think they're the best captains. But 2 free transfers gets you to 5. A minus could get you to 6. I don't think that'd be the end of the world. A -8 could get you to 7, depending on the certain players. But I think you might be okay with 6 or 7, depending on a few minuses. So that would probably be my advice there. The White Goldfisher said, weirdly enough, I brought in Chris Richards last week too, along with 8 Nori. Pretty much everyone else shat bed though. 8 Nori, a very popular pick in this week. He obviously got the assist and a clean sheet. Josh is in the stream. Hey Josh, how you doing, man? Someone's asked, is Solanke fit? We're currently waiting for an update on that one, but it's not looking good, to be honest. Does look like he has potentially suffered a knee injury, and a knee's it's always a bit of a weird one, isn't it? The knee injury, like it's never like,
Knees aren't to injure, are they? But sometimes you can get away with it, can't you?
yeah, well, not in your case.
Yeah, yeah.
How is the knee, mate? How is it?
It's been alright, to be fair. I've started wandering around the flat, and like every time I'm indoors, I'll wander around without crutches. So that's good. They're just a bit of a safety net now when I'm out and about.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking for someone with a potential knee injury, go on. How do you think Solanke might bounce back?
Well, it just depends on what he's done because, of course, as soon as you mention ligaments or as soon as you mention like some kind of injury to like I don't know, like like the meniscus or something, as soon as those words are thrown at you, I think you might want to worry. But I think if you've just hyperextended it or jarred it or just got a bit of a bruise on it, then like of course it's going to keep you out because you might have a dead leg or something, and you might need like a game off. He may be injured this week, but there is still hope. I think the fact that we haven't heard anything serious and like no one's because I feel like with a knee injury you'd like to think you'd know. Like I remember with Jota, it was pretty much after he did it that everyone was like, yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I've got some kind of hope for Solanke is the fact that it's not been like, yeah, he's gonna have a scan and we're just gonna have a wait and see. It's we don't actually know anything, unless that's just really good secrecy from Bournemouth. Fair play to them. But yeah, if it's anything to do with like ligaments or anything, then he's screwed.
Yeah, true.
I just wanted to say, actually, adding on to that Kath Dan comment of her team, with her having Areola, Reguilon, Tony for game week 29, a clear person you need to have in, and maybe two people to have in, especially if next week, if you've got two free transfers, as in, I take it you mean next week and then game week 29, I would definitely consider potentially taking a -4 next week and bringing in Morris and Doherty, because then you've got that blank game week, you've got two players, but you've also got two players for that double game week. Just an idea.
Very good advice. That double could definitely negate the minus. I like that,
yeah,
mate. That's very. So, yeah. What's happened to you? The vibes have gone. Quality advice is coming out. Who have you been hanging out with?
It's this wild card like Chris Richards has got me out.
The Chris Richards in brigade has done it for you. Josh has said, "Is it worth Is Son worth getting this week and currently keeping Tony and waiting for Solanke news?" Yeah, I'd be looking to get Son in this week. I think if I had KDB, he did play a full 90 midweek. Yes, he got the 4 assists. After this, though, the fixtures are a bit bleak. And like we said, we do think Son and Watkins are the one if you aren't on that free hit strategy for 29. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, it works out nicely as well because once that blank game week is done, City's games kind of ease up a little bit. So then the world's your oyster, really. You can maybe consider finding those funds to swap Son back for De Bruyne.
True. FPL Harry has apparently reposted a tweet saying Solanke could play this week. Oh la. Well, I'm just going to go into Twitter and go and check that. Let's go and find him.
God, I hope Areola doesn't do what like Roy did with Elise or Klopp did with bloody Salah and Trent, like by playing them way too prematurely. Because that could just blow up in their face because he's so important. Like, I feel like if there's any doubt, you need to just give him a rest. Maybe he could play. I mean, to be fair, it depends on the tweet. Maybe he's going to be benched to start with just as a bit of a precaution.
True. The tweet says Dominic Solanke... Can't speak tonight. Dominic Solanke injury, not as bad as first feared. Could feature against Burnley this weekend. It's good, though, if it's not as worse as they thought.
Well, here's one that I was thinking of late last night before I went, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to go with Son. I mean, I was always going to go with Son, but a potential rogue one is if Solanke is injured or if anything goes wrong this week. I won't do it this week. It's not worth -4ing for.
Yeah.
But this Unal that Bournemouth are starting to integrate up front
picked up an injury in the FA Cup.
Ah, are you serious?
Yeah, well done. Good link.
Oh, it's gonna. You know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be bloody Semenyo that's gonna.
He's gonna get a hat trick, isn't he? It would be It would be peak FPL if Semenyo goes and gets an injury now. I'd absolutely love it, mate. I'd absolutely love it if that happened.
It's all right though, because if that triple captain Solanke doesn't pay off, I'll hold it for when Haaland's at home to Luton. I know you'd love it if it was a double, but it's just. I think I think I've had a vision from God, and I think he said to me,
No.
Haaland.
Right. What pain medication are you on again?
Not enough.
Not enough. Chris Richards, Haaland in a single game week for the triple captain. Like, honestly, that ibuprofen
I
they
mean,
got you on.
you're saying this Haaland one like it's a write-off, but he did score 5 against them in the week.
True. They are playing a ridiculously weird high line at the moment. So I don't know what they're really planning with that one. Right, let's move on to my team. Do keep the questions coming in. Me and Jake will answer some more of those throughout the stream. This is how I got on. After 3 consecutive red arrows, we are back with a green, back with a bang, up to 265,000. We did take a -4, bringing in Odegaard. That one didn't work and was a little bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, they've got Sheffield United this week, so hopefully he can come away with an attack in return. Fingers crossed. KDB obviously did finish that game with 0 points, so not the worst decision in the world, I guess. It is what it is. Senesi was my other transfer in as well ahead of that double game week, so hopefully that one can come to fruition over the next few weeks. But other than that, there are a few key boys that absolutely pop for me. Foden, Saka, Watkins, but then a very special shout out has to go for Jarrod Bowen. Like I said, the luck's been down. Not only in FPL, just life in general. Like, the luck's been down. And you know what? We've got rid of the negative vibes. We've got rid of, like, the negativity in the life. And we've brought the good vibes back. And look what's happened. A Jarrod Bowen hat-trick. And now, unfortunately, I am going to have to do another rain dance at some point. So, yeah. I don't know when that'll be. Some point.
No, it'll have to be before that blank game week because you're going to need him to pull something out.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to probably do it this week, aren't I? And then watch him get like 2 or a red card.
Hey, also, I've just noticed something. I feel like you must have had a glitch on the screen because you've got 6 points less than me.
Wow. Well, if you count in the minus as well.
Oh, 10 points.
10 points less, lad. 10 points less. You also did wild card.
It's what I said. It's what I said to our mutual friend Sean. That's the first thing I said to him. I was like, I'm looking forward to this stream because I think for the first time in 26 game weeks, I've actually got more points than fucking FPL. So. It's taken a bloody wild card and it's taken Chris fucking Richards.
I don't think it would have happened any other way, to be honest, bar a Chris Richards masterclass.
Yeah, literally.
Oh dear.
And Bowen, bless him, tried to pull you out the shit there.
He did. He wanted to see me dance, and he did. He did see me dance, and he'll see me dance again. So drop us a follow on Twitter when obviously that video goes out. So good luck with that one. Turkey in the Bush says 1 point Charlie with his special as well. Yep, there he is with his 1 point. I thought for periods of the game, Burnley were going to hold on, you know, and then it all just
that Brownhill red didn't help.
It just all fell apart, didn't it? It was like 1-0 in like the 60th minute, and then I was like, Charlie, can you hang on here? No, 2, 3. It just kept getting worse, to be honest. So yeah, not good. But let's move on. Let's go and take a look at how my team is lining up for this game week. Just switching around all the screens. There we go. This is how the team is currently looking. I think the plan, to be honest, is to roll. That's the plan off the top of my head. So we've got Areola, we've got Gabriel, we're playing Doherty. However, if we get positive news that Cons is going to be fully fit and available for the Luton game, he's going to slide in ahead of Doherty. Then we've got Senesi, Foden, Odegaard, Bowen, Saka with the armband, Haaland, Watkins, and Solanke up front. Obviously, hopefully he's going to be back for the weekend. Burnley away is a great fixture that I feel a lot of people are still kind of writing off. Like, people see Sheffield United or Luton and like get a little bit of a rod on. But anytime people see Burnley, it doesn't seem to have the same effect. You know what I mean? So
it's because Company plays pet ball.
Yeah, he plays pet ball, but they get absolutely battered by everyone. So, I think Burnley's definitely a team we should start to, potentially get a little bit of a pop-up circus for. But, yeah, I think as long as Solanke's fit, I don't think we're going to make a transfer this week. The team's in a pretty good place. If Solanke isn't 100% as well, I still think I'd probably keep him for this week. Hope he plays in the double. But if he's not fit for next week, I think there is one man that is on my radar. And it might be Carlton Morris,
Yeah, I completely get that. I completely get that.
Get him in for the double, right? Carlton Morris in for the double, then features in the blank as well, so it gives me an extra player. But one of the thoughts I had, now you might be thinking this is a bit rogue. City have got Liverpool in 28. Might just take Haaland out.
Right. So on that note,
Yeah.
I was just going to say to you, what was I going to say to you? I just had a thought. I was going to say to you, oh yeah, that's it. I was going to say, is it actually worth taking Haaland out for the next few game weeks and bringing in someone like Morris? Because then you've got Solanke, Morris, Watkins. Because I was like, could you take Watkins out? But then he plays in that blank. So does Solanke if he's fit. So does Morris. Is that front three the best thing for the next few weeks with City's fixtures? That you took the words right out of my mouth, lad.
Well, sort of like Solanke doesn't play in the blank, but that's by the by. He's got a great double if he is fit. But I'm just thinking I might dip Haaland, like Liverpool away. I don't know. You are riddled with injuries. Like you've just got children left, so maybe Haaland does demolish you. But at the same time, even then after that, blanks in 29. Then it's Arsenal at home in 31. So if you've still got the wild card left, it might be worth just waiting until game week 31 or game week 30 to activate that wild card, then getting back in. Then that's what I'm just thinking. Carlton Morris, he's been cooking over the past few weeks. V2 Carlton Morris season could be back.
Do you have any plans to bring Son in?
Yes, he is my other transfer. So I'm going to take Foden out next week for Son. Yeah. That's the plan.
Is that a straight swap? Like, could you do that straight without having to do anything else?
Yeah, I can do that. Straight swap.
No?
Foden for Son. Very easy.
Foden for Son and Morris for Haaland. Mate, your team's going to be so strong. Any game week, that's an improvement.
Yeah, so I think that's the plan. Then obviously dead end, wild card out of it, get Haaland back in, get all the big boys back in. Hopefully at that point maybe Salah's back as well from injury. Doesn't look like he's going to be available in game week 27. I mean, he's one of the most transferred in players this week and is injured. It honestly just baffles my head, some of the NPCs that play this game, to be honest. But yeah.
Foden's 8.1. Would you not be tempted to keep Foden in, do Odegaard for Son? Because Foden's got a good record against Liverpool.
Oh, don't say this. Yeah, but Arsenal are playing Brentford, and Brentford are poo at the moment.
Yeah, they are, to be fair. I feel like it's either or for them, but I would say I think Foden has a pretty solid record against Liverpool. He always bloody scores. He scored against us at Anfield a few times as well. Haaland, I understand, though. I do understand that. I just feel like, I mean, I'm going to jinx it now, so hopefully I don't. But I do feel like Haaland is quite a good match for Van Dijk and Konate. Whereas for some reason, we just can't deal with the little boys.
Sorry?
And it's the little silky, tricky boys.
You want to say that one again?
Yeah, maybe not. But it's the Silkmen that like just swish around you and all that jazz. Especially if De Bruyne is playing, he can pick a pass out, like find a needle through a haystack or whatever the fucking. These sayings are coming out with ease tonight.
Fruit on the top of the cake, still the highlight.
But yeah, I actually would be more. I would be more concerned by Foden than Haaland. Now, don't get me wrong, Haaland can pop off at any given moment, but I actually feel like Foden's more of a threat. Just against Liverpool. Okay, that's all I'd say.
Okay,
but I mean, give it. Come back after this double game week, and I'll be in tears because Haaland's spread me wide open. Lovely stuff. So that was children and spreading you wide open, all in one segment. You've come to your own conclusion there. I was talking about like the play,
right,
the defense.
Yeah. Sure.
Anyway,
a turkey in a bush has said, "What are your thoughts on Ross Barkley in general after his dry spell? Think he could get back to his best in time for the double?" I mean, Luton don't look good at the moment. Like, they're conceding a lot of opportunities. And I think outside of Morris and maybe Doherty, I'm not too fussed about anyone else. That's my personal take on things. I don't know if you agree, Jake.
Yeah, probably. I think it's definitely not worth doing this week. And I feel like you've got a good opportunity here because they've got a pretty tough game against Villa, but they they can be quite resilient and... Not maybe resilient, but they don't give up in the big games. I think the fans get behind them and they always do create chances and they do tend to score. So it'll be interesting to see how Ross Barkley in particular for you does perform at home to Villa, and if he puts on a show, then albeit go for it. But yeah, I think it's Morris and Doherty. To be fair, thinking about it for both Bournemouth and Luton, I think I'm reluctant to go for a midfielder.
Yeah, the midfield options for both sides are just a bit
naff for Luton, and then
yeah.
Bournemouth just rotate a little bit too much.
And then even the ones that play pretty consistently, like Tavernier, there's just nothing.
He's just got no output. He had a good couple chances against City that he really should have done better with.
Well, I'm glad we're in agreement there. I'm glad we're in agreement. Let's move on to captaincy choices for this game week. I've identified 5 potential players you might want to give the armband to. We've got Watkins. We've got Solanke on here. Obviously, if he's fully fit and available. Burnley, pretty good fixture. Haaland, Saka, and Son, who is a very popular transfer in this week. We're going to start off with Ollie Watkins. 5 goals, 4 assists for him. Playing against a Luton side that did concede 5 against Manchester City. And overall are, I think, 19th for XG conceded over the past 5 game weeks as well. With Watkins being in the form that he's in, Jake, do you think maybe he could be one that's going under the radar?
He could be, yeah, definitely. I think as much as I will defend Luton for the fact that they're a very vibrant side when they're at home, and any game at Kenilworth Road does tend to be quite entertaining. But they are very leaky at the back, and like you mentioned, they've got this weird high line that they've decided to play, and I think Watkins is that type of player that could cause them a lot of problems. I think they've with the likes of Bailey, and I don't know, is Diaby injured, or if not, he might feature. Just the pace that they've got. Not only being Watkins, he's going to be provided with a lot of opportunities, I would have thought. I think the only thing I can say is my weird gut instinct, which I always like to bring into this. Not talking specifically about a player that scored previously against, like when I say like, oh, Watkins, he likes going to such and such a stadium because he scored so many goals in so many games. And I do believe that has a factor in their confidence in their own ability in a specific game. I also think this could have an effect on the game itself for Luton as a football club, because of course this is all new for them as a club, and they went to Villa Park and were really unlucky not to shithouse the absolute pants off them. So I think it's one of those, really. I don't know. I really don't know what to say of that one, but I think with like you mentioned, and I think you spotted it. Well, you definitely spotted it before me. You mentioned it. This high line that they're playing, I think someone as fast as Watkins, with the providers he also has, I don't see why you wouldn't be considering him.
Yeah, I get that. As well, do you think potentially maybe the Luton morale is going to be a little bit down? Obviously, Everton's points deduction got reduced to 6. I think that now means they're like 4 or 5 adrift. Just got battered by City 5-2 out of the FA Cup as well. Confidence might be low. Maybe Watkins, with the good confidence he's in, could be a little bit of a match made in heaven.
It could be, yeah. I can't really give you much of a contrasting opinion, to be honest, because I do think everything you say is spot on. I actually have just had a look, and my defence for Luton's persistence in this potential game of maybe causing an upset was completely wrong, because it was Sheffield United, wasn't it, that nearly beat them at Villa Park.
Yep.
So apologies for that. The last couple of minutes of content was absolute bullshit. But anyway, I've caught myself out, and I'm here to apologise for that. But yeah, so that just further confirms the fact that Ollie Watkins is a really good shout.
Do you think maybe I've convinced you to take a gamble over Haaland on him?
Potentially, there is potential there, because he was another person that did outshine Haaland at the weekend. Like, I went for Haaland. I didn't even consider Watkins, I must admit. I don't know why, but for some reason I was torn between Saka and Haaland, and of course Saka did do the best of the three of them, but Watkins still did better than Haaland. He's an ever-present in that side, and he's an ever-present in front of goal. So, yeah, you know what, mate? You may do. You may well do.
All right. Moving on to Dominic Solanke. Obviously, we're still a little bit unsure about his potential injury, but if we get the news, he's fully fit, going to be playing against the Burnley side. Seems like they're pretty set on relegation back to the Championship. Maybe Dom, a shout? Maybe?
No, I definitely consider Dominic Solanke there. I think, like you said, Burnley is one of those teams for some reason people are overlooking, well, underlooking, or no, yeah, you're overlooking their their tendency to ship goal after goal.
Mm.
So I actually think that's a very good shout as well. But of course, lo and behold, if Solanke's a bit of a doubt, or if we don't get any confirmation, of course you'd not go anywhere near him.
True.
But the fixture itself, you would back Solanke to bag.
True, true. Moving on to Erling Haaland, your captain for this week. Pretty good record against Manchester United. Obviously off the back of his 5 goals against Luton as well. Confidence will be flowing for that boy. Do you think potentially he could cause an upset in the derby?
I mean, I don't think it'd be necessarily an upset if he
Well, no,
does what he does best.
I meant more like just generally upsetting United fans, to be honest.
Definitely. I'm just having a little look. I'm just having a little look here, and his form against United is a joke,
Yeah.
an absolute joke. He's got 5 goals in his last 3 games against them.
Oof.
He scored 5 goals in the week.
Oh, no.
He's United cannot cope with him. Just cannot cope with him. And I think he's as much as I'd love United to do a job over them, I think he's going to cause absolute chaos.
All right. You may be making me sway and maybe change my decision now, to be honest. Go back to Erling Haaland.
I think you just be like, I don't know if you're just looking at Haaland and seeing Saka and the others with better fixtures, but I think in a similar way to Burnley, I think you've got to consider how shabby United can be at times, and when they come up against class, albeit I think they got a couple of draws this season against big sides, but more often than not, they do not cope. And I think Haaland and co are going to be way too much for United, unfortunately.
All right. I think you might have swayed me back to putting the armband on Haaland, but we'll have a see. This is currently my captain. It is Saka. 7 goals for him over the past 5 game weeks. Interestingly, the highest scoring player. He does have the best fixture this week. There is no getting around it. Sheffield United away. And Arsenal, since the turn of the year, they've been putting teams to the sword, putting in some very impressive performances as well. So it is, I think, probably going to be a split decision for a lot of people this week, Haaland or Saka. Gun to your head, Jake. Which one are you going for?
I'm probably going to stick with Haaland, but I do think, like you said, Saka's got an exceptional fixture. Sheffield United, once they concede, if they concede in the first 15 minutes, they're probably not going to avoid shipping maybe 4 or 5. Like you said, Arsenal are scoring for fun at the moment. I guess the only thing I can really put against Saka, because he's in such a purple patch at the moment, is there's that threat of potentially having that player of the month curse, along with maybe Arteta getting manager of the month curse. Should that come through, I can't imagine anyone else is going to really contest with those two for winning those awards for February, because they're in such good form, like we've said. So maybe that'll be on Saka's shoulders a little bit, but unfortunately, I think Sheffield United is just abysmal. So I actually think this week, Watkins, Haaland, and Saka will all do something. I just think, on the whole, Haaland's going to do a whole lot more.
All right. I think you've rounded that up quite nicely. Last player I did identify was Son. He's probably going to be a player that a lot of people are going to look to bring in. His data over the past 5 game weeks pretty dismal because he's been away at the Asian Cup. I think he's only played about 130 minutes over that time period as well. Crystal Palace at home, on paper, looks a good fixture, but is that new manager bounce potentially going to stick Spurs at home?
Spurs are a little bit of a weird one to judge at the moment, because they have looked really good under Postecoglou, and I think maybe there were a few blips at some point in the season, but that Wolves result was the first time I think I really thought of it as that's a classic Spurs moment.
Yeah.
Because really under Postecoglou, I've been really impressed with them. They've looked like a side that won't ship that much and that won't capitulate like Spurs have been maybe renowned for. So I'm not too sure how to call that one. I think Son coming in is a solid shout, especially for the blank, especially for Spurs' overall run. But the overall result in that game, I actually can't call it. It could well be a comfortable win for Spurs. It could well be a really tense game. It could be a boring game. It could go any way. And And so with that in mind, I think having him in is enough this week.
Yeah, I like that. Sorry, mate. I was just, if you want to keep talking, I was just doing something.
No worries.
Cool.
No, but like I said, I think having him in is a really important thing to have, especially over the next few weeks. I do think having, if you're considering bringing Son in, especially for the blank, I don't see why you wouldn't bring him in now because there aren't many other options that you'd want to go for the next few game weeks. They have got a decent run. They've got some good fixtures. Palace at home on paper is a game where Son should be doing well. He should be quite confident. Spurs should be confident. They will want to bounce back from recent iffy form. I don't think they've got too many injury doubts. I'm not sure about Udoji, but other than that, I'm not too sure they're really suffering in that department.
Ped Porro's out, so, Richarlison's out.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, even so, I feel like they've got the players that can fulfill those roles, and with Son, I feel like they should have enough. Okay. And on paper, you would back them. I don't really feel like Palace are all that as much as that new manager bounce. I mean, I feel like for a new manager, I think he'd be absolutely over the moon with the fact that your first ever game for your new club is at home to Burnley. I think it may just show him there are a few cracks in Palace still and that there's a lot of work to be done this game.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. Like I said, I can't call it, but I would back Son to do something, like I said, but I just don't back him as much as I do maybe Saka and Watkins, and especially not Haaland.
All right, okay. I think we've left that in kind of a nice place, to be honest. So probably the top three candidates for me and Jake this week are going to be Haaland, Saka and Watkins. Picking one of them is probably going to result in something good, but like we said, we do feel that Haaland probably has got that edge over the rest of them.
One rogue one, I would say, and I do feel like someone will go for it, and I do think a handful of them will go for it if they really do just go for it, but also use previous results and the form of the players. But I actually think someone like Gabriel might actually not be a terrible shout because Sheffield United are not very good at defending. They're not very good at defending set pieces. They must have shipped so many set pieces. Arsenal, on the other hand, have scored the most set pieces, I believe.
Yeah.
And Gabriel, if he's not the top scorer in centre half this season, I'd be surprised. So I actually think this game is pretty set up nicely. I think even you having Odegaard in is a really good shout because he's most likely going to be on the majority of set pieces. I think he could pop up with a couple of assists in that game. So I actually wouldn't mind having an Arsenal defender in my side. It was the one thing I was debating on taking a -4 for because I really don't see Sheffield United scoring in that game. They could, but Arsenal are defending really well. They're scoring for fun, like you said, and their defenders are getting on the score sheet so much. They're scoring from so many set pieces, corners. Just no one seems to be able to deal with them, and Sheffield United can't deal with any corners anyway. So I think that's a potential. And I think if you're considering even making a transfer, I think if you don't have one of those centre halves in Saliba or Gabriel, probably would opt for Gabriel over Saliba just for his goal scoring of late.
And cheaper price.
Well, there you go then. But yeah, I think Gabriel could be someone that I'm talking myself into a -4 here, Tom.
Just took a wild card, -4 in for Gabriel. Get him in. Oh, Jake. No,
I think not unfortunate. I think it's a blessing in disguise, but I think the way my team's set out is actually fairly decent in defence. So I'm happy to leave it for now. But yeah, I do think Gabriel could actually get a goal and a clean sheet.
All right. Well, that's some very interesting thoughts. I do think Gabriel will do extremely well. I think Arsenal have a 51% probability of a clean sheet this week. The top for XG conceded as well over the past 5, 6, even maybe 7 game weeks. So absolutely clear by a country mile. Before we finish up, let's have a run through of some of your guys' questions. If you do have any, get them in now. And then I'll ask Jake some classic FPL Tom preview streams. And we will announce bed shitter of the week. Sorry, hiccups. Best triple Villa considering Watkins, Douglas Luiz and Bailey for game week 29, says Saint Ledger. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, you could always maybe... It depends on if you're going for a free hit. If you're going for a free hit, then fair enough. Stick to that, I would say. But if you're looking for 3 players to bring in or to integrate into your team, but it's going to continue like that, maybe you wouldn't want to waste 2 midfielder slots with Villa. and maybe stick to one of them, I'd probably opt for Douglas Luiz, funnily enough.
I would.
Saves you some money, I think. And he also he's not a rotation risk. He's scoring absolutely loads in comparison to how many I think anyone expected this season. I don't think anyone thought he'd even sniff double figures. And yeah, so I think I'd be more inclined to go for Watkins, Douglas Luiz, and potentially a defender. But if you are free hitting, go for it.
All right, nice one. A turkey in a bush has said thoughts on Hwang out, Havertz in, and he will be free hitting in 29, so it doesn't really matter about that fixture. Havertz, interestingly, I was looking at this the other day. He's actually been a little bit of a goal machine, hasn't he?
He has. And if he's not, he either plays up top, because of course Jesus is out. He's in better form than Nketiah, and Trossard doesn't seem to have a set place yet. But then when Trossard plays, they just drop him back into midfield. So he does get a lot of minutes as of late.
I'm just going to have a look at his past 5 game weeks, to be honest. Maybe, obviously, with the Sheffield United fixture, maybe people are thinking about it. Havertz.
He's an aerial threat as well for those set pieces.
It's all coming together now, pal. 2 goals, 3 assists, 34 points. Not the worst in the world. Not the worst in the world. 7.1 million as well, so maybe might be worth a little bit of a cheeky little punt for the next few weeks. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Unfortunately, I can't do team ratings just because of the way this stream is set up with all the different windows, Skype, streams, yeah, whatever. So if you want your team rating, we will
struggle to have me on Skype.
Yeah, we're struggling with just Skype, to be honest, most of the time. So don't try and add like extra complex layers in. But yeah, we will do those on the preview stream. The deadline stream. That will be at 11:30 on Saturday. So yeah, come along for that. Turkey in a Bush has said Jake gonna take a -8 for Kai now as well.
I mean, those set pieces really do stink for Sheffield United.
It's when I get a text on Saturday, and it's just Gabriel scored set piece. Oh, there's Havertz's goal. It's gonna fully happen. I know. I'm waiting for the message to just fly into my inbox.
Oh. You know what's also heavy is it's a Monday night game, so it would just add extra spice if I had a few players from that.
Oh, it's gonna happen. It is gonna happen. Anton's joined the chat as well. Hi, mate. How are you doing? Big question for you this week, Jake. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna end bedshitter of the week first. Your bedshitter for game week 26. I think it was pretty obvious, to be honest, which one this was going to be. It is Hwang that has come away with 58% of the vote. Højlund, 41%. So Google...
Must have been Neto with 1%, yeah, I reckon.
Google, again, brilliant on these polls. Always.
Do they just take commission for the percentages?
I have no idea, because an even number of votes have happened as well. 24 votes have gone in, yet we've got 58 and 41. Like... What's gone off here, lads? Come on, sort it out. But yeah, Hwang, congratulations. You are our bed shitter of the week. I think thoroughly deserved off the back of your stinking performance against Sheffield United. Before we finish up, Jake, what is going to be the highest scoring game of this game week?
It's going to be Sheffield against Arsenal, isn't it? And it's going to be a Gabriel hat-trick and a few assists for Havertz.
All right. Okay. I'm thinking a little bit different. I'm looking around the table, and I'm seeing another Super Sunday classic in Burnley versus Bournemouth. That, to me, smells of goals. Does it smell of goals
more so with Solanke injured, potentially?
Oh, no, if Solanke's out, that's even better. There's more goals in there. So, yeah. Turkey in the Bush has put another quality comment as well. He says, Nketiah got a hat-trick against Sheffield United early in the season. -12.
Well, to be fair, when you put it like that actually puts a rotation risk in there, then, doesn't it? Because you wouldn't be surprised if Arteta tries his little pep tactic and plays the likes of Nketiah, because they're on the bench. It's not like he's injured, and that is a type of game where you could rest some players. So that's the one place you have to just be careful. But fortunately, the likes of Saka and Gabriel and Odegaard are ever present, and you don't have anything to worry about. That's Nketiah being a potential player will maybe put Havertz in jeopardy more than anyone.
True. All right. It doesn't look like we're going to get any more questions in, so I think we're going to leave it there. Like I said at the top of the stream, we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. So if you do want to help us hit that goal by the end of the season, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Like I said as well, I will be live for the deadline stream at 11:30. Jake will probably be mirandering. Is that the right word? Mirandering?
Meandering.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother attempting to pronounce it again. I butchered it once. I'm not butchering it again.
It's all right. That's just the fruit on the top of the cake of this stream.
It is indeed. It is indeed. But yeah, Jake will be there. I'll be there. It'll be all good stuff at 11:30 on Saturday. So if you do have any questions or want your team rating by me prior to the deadline, come along to that one. But thank you very much for watching today's preview stream, ladies and gentlemen. A thank you from me, and I'm guessing a thank you from you, Jake.
Yep. See you next week.
See you next week, guys. Bye-bye.